So, I've been holding on to this story for a while, and I think it's finally time to share it. It all started about a year ago when I decided to clean out my grandmother's attic after she moved into a nursing home. You know how attics are: dark, dusty, and filled with things long forgotten. I was just expecting to find some old clothes, maybe a few trinkets, but what I discovered changed everything. As soon as I climbed up the creaky wooden stairs, the smell hit me. It was that musty scent of old wood and mildew, mixed with something I couldn't quite place. I turned on the light, and the glow flickered, casting eerie shadows that danced across the walls. I hesitated for a moment, wondering if I should just turn back. But my curiosity got the better of me. There were stacks of boxes piled high, each one filled with memories: old photo albums, toys from my mom's childhood, and countless other odds and ends. But it was in the corner, half hidden behind a pile of dusty blankets, that I found the journal. It was small, bound in cracked leather, the pages yellowed with age. I felt a strange pull toward it, like it was calling out to me. I opened it up, and at first glance, it seemed like the ramblings of an old woman. The handwriting was shaky, a mix of elegant cursive and frantic scrawls. I began to read, and that's when I realized it belonged to my grandmother. The first few entries were mundane, notes about her daily life, small events, things I already knew about her. But as I turned the pages, the tone shifted dramatically. She started writing about nightmares that plagued her, vivid and terrifying dreams that felt all too real. She wrote about a shadowy figure that appeared at the foot of her bed, whispering her name. At first, she thought it was just a trick of her mind, a result of her age and the medication she was taking. But the entries became more frantic, detailing how the figure would visit her every night, getting closer and closer until it was standing right next to her, just out of reach. The last few pages were the most disturbing. In them, she mentioned an old family curse, something she had always dismissed as superstition. According to her, it dated back generations, and she had hoped it would skip her. But now, she was beginning to believe it was real. As I read those words, I felt a chill creep up my spine. "Every night it watches me," one entry read. "I can feel its breath on my neck, cold and heavy. I've tried to tell your mother, but she won't believe me. She thinks I'm losing my mind. But I know it's real. I can hear it whispering my name." I was already on edge, but that entry pushed me over the edge. The air in the attic felt thick, almost suffocating, and I glanced around, half expecting to see that shadowy figure lurking in the corners. I tried to shake it off, telling myself it was just an old woman's fear. But as I continued reading, I couldn't help but feel like something was off. Then I reached the final entry. It was dated just days before she had moved out of the house. Her handwriting was almost illegible, frantic and rushed. It said, "I'm scared. It's getting stronger. I can't sleep anymore. It wants something from me, but I don't know what. If you find this journal, promise me you'll burn it. Don't let it get to you. It will follow you too." I felt a knot form in my stomach. I didn't want to believe it, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. I closed the journal, but I couldn't just leave it there. I took it with me, telling myself I'd come back for the rest of the stuff later. That night, I tried to push the whole thing out of my mind. I went to bed, but sleep wouldn't come. I kept replaying her words in my head, imagining that shadowy figure creeping closer and closer. Every creak of the house made me jump, and I felt that familiar sensation of being watched, the hairs on the back of my neck standing up. Around 2 a.m., I finally decided I couldn't take it anymore. I got up, grabbed a glass of water, and went to the kitchen. That's when I heard it. A soft whisper, like someone was calling my name. It was faint at first, almost like the wind rustling through the trees. I stood frozen, straining to listen. "Hello?" I called out, my voice shaking. Silence. Just as I was about to convince myself it was nothing, the whisper came again, more insistent this time. It sounded like it was coming from the hallway, just beyond the kitchen. I took a step forward, my heart pounding in my chest. I peered into the hallway, the shadows stretching ominously as I flicked on the light. Nothing. I took a deep breath and tried to convince myself I was just being paranoid, but as I turned to head back to the kitchen, I caught a glimpse of something in the corner of my eye. There it was, the shadowy figure from the journal. It was standing at the far end of the hallway, just outside the glow of the light. I felt my heart drop. My blood ran cold, and I couldn't move. It was just standing there, watching me with a presence that felt so wrong. I blinked, and when I opened my eyes, it was gone. I stumbled backward, nearly tripping over myself. My mind raced. This couldn't be happening. I must have been imagining things. Maybe I was just too tired. I went back to bed, but sleep still wouldn't come. I kept the journal on my bedside table, thinking that maybe if I read more, I'd find some answers. I flipped through the pages, looking for anything that could help me understand what was happening. Days turned into weeks, and the figure kept appearing, always just out of reach, always just in the corner of my vision. I could hear it whispering my name at night, the sound echoing in my head. Come closer. Let me in. It became a constant presence in my life, haunting my every thought. I confided in a few friends, thinking they'd dismiss it as my overactive imagination. But their faces turned serious. One of them even suggested I should burn the journal, just like my grandmother had warned. But I couldn't bring myself to do it. I felt drawn to it, like it was a part of me now. One night, desperate for answers, I sat in my room, the journal open in front of me. I decided to read it out loud, thinking maybe acknowledging it would help me understand. As I spoke the words, I felt a chill in the air. The whispers grew louder, swirling around me like a storm. I stopped mid-sentence, the atmosphere thick with tension. That's when I felt it. A cold breath on my neck. My heart raced as I turned around, but of course there was nothing there. I slammed the journal shut, panic coursing through me. I decided then and there I needed to get rid of it. The next day, I took the journal back to my grandmother's house, determined to burn it. I felt a mix of relief and fear as I placed it in the fireplace. But as I struck the match, the whispers began again, louder than ever. Don't burn it. Don't let it go. I hesitated for a moment, but then I threw the match into the fire. The flames flickered and danced, consuming the journal. I felt a wave of relief wash over me. But just as quickly, that relief turned to dread. The whispers stopped. For the first time in weeks, I felt silence envelop me. It was peaceful, almost too peaceful. But then the stillness became unsettling. I rushed out of the house, feeling like I was being suffocated by the quiet. That night, I went home, and for the first time, I slept soundly. But when I woke up, something was different. I glanced at my phone and saw dozens of missed calls from my mother. Confused, I called her back, but what she told me shattered my sense of safety. My grandmother had passed away during the night. She hadn't been sick. It was sudden and unexpected. The moment the words left my mother's mouth, I felt a chill run down my spine. I couldn't shake the feeling that whatever had been haunting my grandmother had found its way to me instead. Now, I'm left with the unsettling knowledge that the whispers were not just my imagination. That journal was a vessel, a bridge between worlds. I don't know what happened to my grandmother or why it chose to follow me, but I can't escape it. I still hear those whispers at night, still feel that cold breath on my neck. And now I'm left wondering, what did I unleash? What is lurking just beyond my reach? All I know is that I can't ignore it any longer. I'm stuck in this haunting cycle, and I fear that one day it will finally get what it wants from me. So, if you ever come across an old journal or something that feels like it's calling to you, just remember my story. Sometimes it's best to leave the past buried.